afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Kingdom of Dreams podcast, The Making of Stories. I'm your host, Jawad Mir. As I've mentioned earlier, this podcast still being a podcast about films, about TV series, about books, about films, but now I'm slightly deviating, but still keeping the essence of the podcast by having guests on who have their own story about what their life is like and what could be turned possibly into a film or a series down the road. And today my guests are Zareen Khan and Umair Khan, owner, chef, and co-owner of Zareen's restaurant, located in California with multiple locations. I first came across their restaurant with a personal connection as one of my films, In Search of My Sister, 3 years ago, was privately screened there. And now they have come out with a brand new book. It's called Zareen's Pakistani Kitchen, Recipes from a Well-Fed Childhood. My conversation with Zareen and Umair was fantastic. We talked about their personal journey, we talked about their business journey. So without further ado, here's my conversation with Zareen Khan and Umair Khan. I would love to know, how did your journey start in terms of meeting each other the first time and then taking it from there? As you know, obviously I don't want to have you guys giving away too much because most some of it's in the book. So just in terms of summary, we can have Zareen start if she likes.
Umair is really good at starting with our journey, then I'll take over.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, we met up in high school. So we were right around 16, and thank you, Karachi Grammar School. Yeah, then what was interesting was that then she stayed back in Pakistan to study at IBA, and I was obviously, then I went abroad. So it was a nice 4-year long distance AT&T relationship, $3.50 per minute, typically 3 minutes a week, lots of letters. And then that was sort of the first part. And then after that, it was, yeah, we got married in 92, and that's when, Zareen came over to Boston with me.
That's when I started Northeastern after my status changed from F2 to F1. And then we moved to the Bay Area where Umair joined Intel. And I was looking forward finishing up my master's still. After that, started with financial analysis, then ended up as a product manager. And at some point, I decided that corporate life is not for me. So many different options were there. And one thing that struck out most, that was the easiest for me to do at that time, was do cooking classes and teach people how to do Pakistani food. And one thing led to another. We had kebab deliveries morphed into corporate catering. And then one day I decided, you know what, maybe I should open a restaurant. So that's when Mountain View was born in 2014.
Mhm.
That's the start of my journey.
Nice. So do you guys still have those letters that you guys used to write each other?
That was the best part of dating in that time, because you
Yeah.
have those letters which you write so meticulously, unlike just messaging now. So
But
yeah,
do you
we
guys still have them?
Yeah,
do
yeah, we have them.
a
Yes.
whole bag full of them.
Do you guys
Yeah.
occasionally go through them?
Yeah, I love how Jawad, Zareen tried to steer you towards the business side and the restaurant, and you went right back to the letters. Well done.
Well, business is not something that people connect to as much as people connect to personal stories, right? So that's
Absolutely.
pretty, yeah.
No, we still have that. We still have, it's interesting. We don't have that many photographs from that. It wasn't very much a sort of a selfie culture at that time, right? So the
Yeah.
few we have are actually quite precious, like her pictures from IBA, where she was, led student government, and she was quite the activist there and all, which was not fun for me being in Boston, listening about all the political chicanery going on at Karachi University and all, and her right in the thick of it.
Yeah, I was the first woman ever to be elected as a treasurer for a student union at IBA. And I hope there are more now, but I
Mhm.
don't think so, though. I haven't heard.
Sure they are.
Mm-mm. I asked somebody there.
Hmm.
So it would be, I hope more women start leading.
Right. And I'm gonna get into all the other stuff, but just to kind of stay on the latter part, and I'm not trying to, if I'm trying to be invasive, please let me know. It's
Mhm.
more about if there's something that you read in a letter now, both of you guys, about each other, something that stands out, that how silly we were, or did we say this, or were we talking like that, or something that's completely nice and lovely. If that you're willing to share that, that'd be lovely to hear.
When was the last time that we actually saw all of this? Actually, it's interesting. We should actually that.
Both homes that we discover the
Yes.
bag, and then we open one or two, and that's about it for me.
Yes. I mean, all I'll say on the subject is it's kind of very nicely secretly stashed away from the kids.
Got it.
So I think we'll leave it at that.
Sounds good. Sounds good. And I visited Zareen's restaurant for the first time when we did the screening of the film, and I had no idea what it was. And I've visited a few times, and the food is great as it is, but for me, the experience was definitely something that was different. I mean, in Toronto, we had a similar style, but a little bit more downscale. I don't know if you ever heard of Lahore Tandoori House or Lahore Tikka House. Very popular, but this was just something different, and I really enjoyed the vibe. What was the process of the actual environment and experience that you wanted to create for people besides the food?
Mm.
So when the kids were young, we would go to Barnes and Noble a lot on the weekend to read books with them and all. And then all of a sudden, Amazon took over and the bookstores started closing. So at that time, Mary and I had thought, oh, we'll have a cafe one day and we'll have the library and people would read while we make coffee. So that, in a way, was our dream at that time. So when I took over the restaurant, it was really small. It was only 700 square feet, the one in Mountain View. So we had no space to even put a bookshelf there. And at that time, funds were also limited because I didn't want to overdo it. I didn't know where I'm headed. So that's when the book idea on the walls came about. The other thing we decided at that time is we let our customers write their review on the walls. So that was, I think, very quaint and nice to see that. So truck art was added, more women empowerment images that I found in Pakistan were brought in to give that desi vibe, but not overwhelmingly desi. We don't want to create an environment where you feel like you have stepped into Lahore or Karachi, but on pieces of it. And it just overall, we want people to feel comfortable, relax, make the day better.
Do you guys remember the very first few customers or first few days when you guys opened the restaurant and how it unfolded, and if you had any kind of epiphany that this is going to be something bigger than I expected or we expected?
I didn't have much expectation. I just wanted something that I can enjoy, give some a livelihood, So at that time I didn't. But initially, our friends and community were the one we would put them against the wall so the place looks a little full. And
Near the window, right? Like near the entrance.
Yeah.
So outside it looks full. Yeah.
But within a couple of months, we could see that there is a huge demand, and we had lines out of the door, which we were not ready for. So Umair was constantly getting pulled in to help me. So it was an experience the first 6 months.
So I'll say I think literally the first night or second night, there was a friend of ours, a couple, they came in, and there was just so much demand I think it was literally the first or second night, because again, the community sort of showed up, that I think their food wasn't served for well over an hour. I think it was hour and 10 minutes or something. It was literally the first day. And so the restaurant essentially closed. They were still sitting there with the whatever masala fries and drinks.
That was the standard. Whenever we'd be late,
Give them
masala fries, samosas, mango chai, just to keep them going and not focus on how behind I was in the kitchen.
Yeah. And then I remember the restaurant closed and we just sat with them. We apologized and we just had a meal with them. Like we got whatever was there and we just shared. And that was kind of like the end of shift one. And they were very nice about it, of course. They're lovely people. But yeah, that was there. I will say that one, it really was, well before the first restaurant, right? So as Zareen was saying, it started with the cooking class. So that journey from cooking class to restaurant itself was quite amazing, right? So you want to talk about?
Yeah, I would love to hear that.
Yeah, because that was
The cooking classes were like didn't make any business at all. It was a lot of work. I would be practicing on Umair and kids, which they were very happy to see.
It was brilliant, lovely times
kids
for
every
us.
day, but didn't make much sense. Then the cooking classes led to kebabs for the student. And before we know it, we were getting orders for like hundreds of kebabs. And Umair and I would be delivering to San Francisco, Berkeley, almost every weekend. And then the students came and said, "Oh, would you like to cater for our company? We are giving free food." So that's how
Not the
it started.
students. These are
My
oh yeah, the
students, as well as
cooking
friends.
class
Yeah,
students.
the
Yeah, yeah,
cooking
yeah.
class students.
As well as the others. Yeah, yeah. So we
So
had a pretty big following already at
yeah,
that
I
time.
think friends and community was very much there for us.
Yeah. So the best of the cooking classes made it out to sort of this frozen kebab delivery. She was then I actually had a substantial, effort and sort of initiative going with a central kitchen.
Some people were a little bit like, "Oh, what's happening? Kebab Queen is here. Is Umair's business doing all right?" And I would like, if Umair's business was not doing all right, I wouldn't be doing $1 kebabs, you know. I can get a better job than that. So, but in general, it was
Yeah.
very positive.
Yeah. There'll always be a few detractors, and the moral of the story is not to worry about them.
I always love the speculation gossip among people, how they assume things instead of looking at the actual action that's happening in front of them.
Some of the same
how-
people are now like, "Oh, bola tha na, you will do so well. Told you."
yeah, that's always the case, right?
Like,
I was watching this interview. I forget the context, but basically the story was um, this one guy. I think he was an actor, and how all these people, these teachers and professors, doubted them from the very beginning, and they showed up at the awards when this guy was getting awards, and he said, "Well, I told you you'd be successful." And the actor, just to make the teacher happy, he's like, "Yeah, I know you did." But yeah, there's always that whole thing that people who claim in the beginning not to believe in you, and then they later on say that they did. I always find it fascinating. With your lifestyle at the time, both of you guys being so busy, if you look back at it, did it impact any kind of time with your kids, and you wish that you had not done so much, even though you have all the success that right now? Has there ever been that time where you think about that in the past?
so the cooking classes were an option only so I can be with the kids. So they would help me with the packaging of small gifts for the students. They would help me. Omer would write the menu for me. So that was something that was done as a family, and the kids really
Mm.
appreciated it because every time I picked them from school, there would be like roast waiting for them, or I don't know, desi style Chinese or tiramisu or something, and there's like, oh, this is so good, and they still miss it. They still miss it. But the kids were a little older when I actually started with cooking. It was taking a lot of my time. They were in their high school at that time. So it wasn't that much of a compromise. I was still able to pick them up from school, drop them home. And if I had to go back, I would go back. But in general, we were very mindful of spending time with them. And I always thought that my daughter would say, "Oh, you missed my games or whatever," because I did that. It was not an option at that time. But one day she was working with me as a cashier in the restaurant, and after that we were having lunch together. And she asked me, "Hey, do you know who I look up to the most?" And I'm like, "Oh, maybe your khala, your puppo, daddy, whatever." It's like, "No, it's you. You've
Oh,
inspired so much that I've seen how hard you work to be where you are." And I think that was the best compliment ever. Because I didn't expect that from her. I always thought she would always feel like, I was not always there for her during her high school time. But opposite of that, I feel like very proud of her and so happy to hear that.
nice. Um, in terms of the book, give me the exact title of it, and if you have it with you, can we show it on the screen?
Yeah,
Let me grab it.
yeah. So the title of the book is Zareen's Pakistani Kitchen,
Okay,
recipes from a well-fed childhood.
interesting. And what was the catalyst of this book? Like, what was the spark that started all this?
Yeah. Yeah. So look, um, I was the one of the few people at MIT doing creative writing,
Mm,
alongside my regular sort of, courses for 8 semesters. So I love books. You see that reflected obviously in the restaurant. Both Zareen and I are, sort of lovers, and I love to write. And so any, sort of excuse to kind of be creative and to write, right, is something that I always look for. And so over the years, and actually, honestly, just around COVID, you have a lot of time to kind of think, and the world's upside down, and you're doing lots of, walks by yourself and all. And this sort of idea came to me that, I've been doing essentially these small sort of food writings and ode to Memni Samosa and this and that in the context of the restaurant for several years. Um, and there's a story to be told around the restaurant. There's a story to be told around Zareen. And I wanted to take that on as a writing project. And so then it took some time to actually convince Zareen to take on that, right?
Took almost a year of Umair reading the description of samosas and aloo gosh and making me all emotional. And after a year, I said, okay, fine.
Yeah.
I'll work on the recipes.
Yeah. So
But
that was the start. But I will say also that we wanted from day one for it to be more than just a recipe book. So I wanted it to have a significant amount of storytelling and creative writing. Zareen really wanted it to be a big part of it to be, sort of women empowerment, spotlight on women, and so on. So you want to talk about kind of how you wanted the women spotlights, no?
but before you do that, Zareen, why were you reluctant to have the book written about Zareen's?
So if cooking classes were hard, this is like next level.
Yeah.
And while you're running 3 restaurants and another one under construction and so much work to do, and I'm the only chef in the restaurant, so I train all the other cooks. It's hard to find time to do a big project like that. So that was my hesitancy, and I don't like to do something half-hearted. So I knew it would be a lot of commitment and a lot of time.
Which it was. So yeah, I mean, it's 5 projects in one, and we can get into that. But yeah, so Zareen was very much like, ye kahan phasa diya and all, because she literally cooked everything and I wrote everything. So there's no ghost writing or ghost cooking, both of which, by the way, are options when you do a cookbook, right? So yeah, it's a lot of work.
Got it. Sorry, Zareen, you were going to say something else too. I just lost my. I think Umair had mentioned that. Do you remember?
I think it's just about why highlight the women in the book.
Yes, yes, yes.
For me, I think despite everything that's going on in Pakistan, I think women have done really, really well there. And they are being major change maker and, small business, hiring so many people. So I wanted to highlight some of the women that I find very inspirational and wanted to support them in my book. I felt people should know that, Pakistan is not like some, poor country with women being all in chains and burqas and all that. So this was a good way to highlight the influencing women of Pakistan.
And across the world.
Across the world.
So it was really about women that we look up to, both of us, and that we want people to sort of see.
There's some really
Yeah.
accomplished women here that we are also very inspired by them.
Yeah.
We wanted to also include them. So it's an inclusive kind of a book.
Yeah. So there's a Bangladeshi British, there's a Pakistani American, there's a Pakistani woman in Pakistan, there's an Indian Canadian, and so on and so forth, right? But yeah, they're women that we are inspired by and we love.
And can you name some of those women like that you guys have sort of been inspired?
Yeah, so Nadia Hussain, the winner of the Great British Bake Off.
Okay.
Sana Amanat, who's the creator of Miss Marvel. Rupi Kaur, the Canadian poet and performing artist.
My favorite, Aisha Chunigar of ACI Foundation.
Yes, Aisha Chundrigar is just incredible out of Pakistan. And then Michelle Tam, who's actually the founder of Nom Nom Paleo, and she's actually local and she loves our restaurant.
And I love her recipes.
Yes. And then Stacey Brown Philpott, who's the former CEO of TaskRabbit and board member at Nordstrom and HP.
Got it. And in terms of, the book, as you said, story, like story is the essence and the core of our existence. And making sure that there's a right balance between the actual journey and the story and then the actual food. Did you guys find that challenging? And if so, how did you sort of make sure that it blends in very, very seamlessly?
Yeah. So the first part of the book is, it starts with kind of us welcoming the readers, and then Zareen's story, which is from Karachi with love, right? So how she became sort of what we call the accidental chef, right?
Yeah.
And then the other big story here, the big essay here is Midnights in Karachi, which is actually me taking the readers on a food crawl of Karachi. So this is from Karachi with love. That's Zareen at 5, and that's kind of her story. And then after that is, and this was quite the accomplishment. So this is Midnights in Karachi,
Mm.
right? The accomplishment here is that we got this incredible photo journalist Khalid Jamil to take like kind of photographs of glimpses of Karachi, and she made Karachi look really beautiful and really clean. So yeah, but then after that, interspersed with all the recipes, I mean, the head notes of the recipes talk about, like, for example, for sheer khurma, right? How it's the dish of choice at Eid and why that's the case, right? Or there's my ode to Memni Samosa, which I'll read in a minute because I'm very proud of that. But that's
Sure.
our, sort of, that's probably one of our most popular items. That's what got Zareen's into the Michelin Guide. And that's really one of her family recipes. So there's a whole, sort of background to that. And then there are the stories of the 6 women that we highlight, right? So, we tried to create that balance, right? So, yeah.
Great. Do you want to read that right now? That the ode?
Happy to, yeah.
Yeah, I would love to hear that.
So on Memni Samosa, to those of us who grew up on this snack, the samosa belongs among the great triangular concepts of human civilization, right alongside the Pythagorean theorem and the love triangle. We who first met this snack as toddlers know that a samosa must be savored hot. With our first crunch escape wisps of aromatic steam, and we smell once again our childhood. May we always savor all 3 sides of a great samosa: taste, texture, and nostalgia.
That's really well written.
Well, thank you.
You just gave Samosa a brand new life for me.
So when you have a minute, I'll read you. Sort of my favorites here are actually nihari and aloo gosht.
Sure, I'm all ears, man. If you want to do it right now.
I'll do one on the aloo gosht because I think
Sure.
that's Moon's favorite too, right? Overlooked amid kebab and curry feasts, aloo gosht was the meat and potato staple of our childhood. It is only when we glance back across many winters abroad that we savor and return its loyal devotion. Done right, aloo gosht has a confident, unvarnished richness that its flashier curry cousins envy. Its light consistency is perfect for basmati rice, so give roti and naan a miss and enjoy mouthfuls of pliant potato and succulent meat atop sauce-drenched rice. In its nourishing simplicity and tender textures, our vagrant hearts retaste our first summers. And so we beat on, migrant boats against the current, borne back ceaselessly into our aloo gosht past.
Wow, incredible.
Thank
That's
you.
really awesome. No, it's just such a visual writing that sometimes you won't even need images to understand that. So really cool. Um, has there been ever a thought or conversation of opening Zareen's outside of Canada? Sorry, as US, whether it's in Pakistan or India or any other country, UK?
I would love to, but not at this point. I'm not ready. A lot of people ask us if we want to franchise. Again, being in the kitchen is my happy place. And if we
Mm,
expand much or franchise, I will be more involved with administration and than the kitchen. So at this point, maybe not. My son has actually joined me for the last 1.5 years. So that has really helped. And if he wants to take it to the next level, I would help him. But for myself right now, maybe not.
Yeah, just to give you a sense of what Zareen's sort of got herself into, right? So we started with Mountain View, which was the first location back in 2014. We just, celebrated 10-year anniversary. And then 2016, we opened up Palo Alto, right?
mm,
And she'd already been in the food business 7 years at the time. So, Palo Alto was an instant success, right? You were talking about early stuff. So Palo Alto location, the second location was this instant success. And I like to call it like the overnight success that was 7 years in the making, right?
Mm.
And there was Redwood City, which is the third one. And now she's bought, Sunnyvale. So there's a construction going on there. The Palo Alto, the second location, she bought out and threw out. Starbucks, our next door folks, and then we broke the walls and we made it into sort of this one restaurant. So that construction project hasn't finished. The Sunnyvale construction project is still going on, and there's other stuff going on. So besides being a restaurateur, she's like sort of full-time sort of contractor right now, and working on constructions. So hopefully, once things sort of subside a little and get a little bit more manageable, then yeah.
Mhm.
And when is the Sunnyvale location scheduled to open estimatedly?
We're hoping June. It was supposed to open last November, but
Mhm.
we didn't
Mhm.
even get a permit until end of January. So let's hope that we can be there because our lease in Mountain View is with Google and they are not renewing the lease. They want to make some apartments or hotels in that place. So we'll be home in June. So let's see how it goes.
Got it. Can you guys talk about what both of you or just Serene, when you're in the kitchen, right? You said that's your happy place. But in kitchen, even if it's your happy place, there's always chaos, right? Like there's so many orders coming in. What's the priority? Everything is running, in order. Maybe a story that you can remember, whether it's recent or in the past, where things were really chaotic and how you sort of overcame it to be able to look after your customers, basically.
It's always chaotic at Serene's. And I love the chaos because it reminds me of Karachi. So I'm very calm among the chaos. Sometimes I feel like, you guys are on the other side of the wall. And there is this whole steam pressure cooker environment in the restaurant. And I remember initially when I opened Mountain View, I had no idea how to get the food, where to get all these items and equipment. I had no idea how to hire employees, had no idea about the laws and all. So it was very challenging. And there was a time when there was only one cook and me, and that cook was going through a divorce. So on the smallest thing, she just took her apron out and just handed it to me. And I was supposed to be the cashier that day. So I was cashier as well as the cook now, and my cook has left right in the middle of lunch rush. So that was like, I remember, like, I remember वो आंखों से भी पसीना निकल रहा था. Basically, it was this hard that day. So, but over time, I got used to it. So I'm pretty calm when things are even going the other way.
Yeah, the early days were actually quite hilarious. There's a whole separate book there somewhere because I remember having this meeting with, I try to take my meetings in the Mountain View place. So I'm lunch and Zareen comes to me and sort of says, "How's the food?" Or I think we're waiting for the food, and she's just like, "Can you come here for a sec?" And she's like, we don't have a cashier. You're the cashier now. And I was like, "But I'm in the middle of a meeting." It's like, it doesn't matter. So then I had to go to the person and say, "I'll just take 5 minutes," and then I'm manning the till. And then that took 45 minutes. And the guy was very, very understanding because he knew this whole sort of family business type thing. But yeah, I was pulled into that. The other is, I was one of the founders of Open Silicon Valley, the Organization of Pakistani Entrepreneurs. It's an amazing platform here, and the annual conference is a amazing thing, right? So,
Yeah.
after 10, 12 years of that, you're holding court with people. And Zareen and I had a kind of a secret sort of signal. If she sent SOS on the text, that means drop everything, come help, right?
I need help.
So I'm, holding court with, a whole bunch of sort of young entrepreneurs and telling them about, useless stuff, whatever, term sheets and valuations and all. And then I get this SOS and it says, there are no alus, bring alus. So then I'm like, I have a very important call to take outside. I'll see you guys in a bit. And then I'm off to get alus. So yes.
I
That's
think that
super
was
cool.
not possible. We wouldn't have done what we did if Umair had not worked with me to this extent. Right? And
Lots of people involved.
yeah, but in terms of family support, you really need that.
Yeah.
Good. Whether it's for the wife or the husband, doesn't matter.
100%. Sometimes, we get busy with so much of our daily life that we, in the present, we forget about where we were 10 years ago and how far we have come. Do you ever have those moments where maybe you're under stress, whether it's chaos in the kitchen, whatever that is, and that, that story from the first day or the first month, and kind of just keeps you grounded? Do you have those kind of moments just to keep you calm?
Mm. Personally, seriously, if I understand your question properly, when things are really rough and all, and I get so stressed out, then I remind myself that this is very compared to what I had gone through with my health journey. I was diagnosed with cancer while in the middle of catering and all, and that when I was told about about the tumor, that was like that really shakes your, makes you look at things in the right perspective. So when things are not going right, I remind myself, this is nothing, remember that time? That
Yeah,
was
yeah.
that situation, not this. This is something I can handle.
Wow, I did not know that. When was this? 7, 8 years ago, or?
2012, so it's been a while.
And now you're fully okay?
That's so.
Yeah.
Good, good. That's good. Well, I guess that does answer my question because that is a big thing to overcome. It's not an easy task, not just physically, but mentally as well. So kudos to you.
I
Did
think
that
that's
have, sorry, go on.
that was the time when I realized how important it is for women to have something to pursue for themselves, because then it keeps you focused in a very positive way instead of worrying about things.
Mm. Do you think that was a catalyst for Zareen's, the restaurant?
In a way, yeah. I do value life a lot more than I did before, and I feel like there should be a purpose for everyone to kind of follow and look forward to.
And Umair, how have you seen Zareen's overcoming of all these obstacles and to be where she is today? Not necessarily, when I say success, I don't necessarily mean like,
Yeah.
financial success, but just to have like multiple stores open and a recognized brand and still at it.
Look, first of all, I mean, as an entrepreneur, it's an incredible entrepreneurial journey, right? If you literally look at it one by one, and
Yeah.
Zane's very modest about it, but even in the Mountain View location, I remember thinking she was profitable in her second month, right? Which is very big for a restaurant, right? She returned my entire investment in 8 months, which has not happened across any of the mentors fund, 100 plus investments in venture and in tech, right? So, but I think more than that, I'll tell you this, right? Like, and this is part of the examples or case studies that I do at Berkeley. This
Sure.
is the success. I think honestly, her sort of attention to detail, right, and that consistency of quality is just second to none, right? And it's the hallmark of all great entrepreneurs, right? So that I think her and I can give you several examples of that, but the best one is that in the last sort of Sahur night, all night when we were open last Ramzan, Zareen, Salik, and I told her that you can, go home and we'll take care of it. I'll be there for a couple of hours, and then Salik will be there till like 3, 4 in the morning. So she goes home, and at 12:30 a.m., I get a text, right? While I'm hanging out with all our friends and there's lots of nice crowd and halagulla. And the text says, there is no brown pyaz on the halim. And I'm like, what the heck is happening, right? And so she's looking through the camera on her phone, right, sitting in bed and seeing that halim pe, you know how you have to have the crispy
Yeah,
brown
yeah,
pyaz.
yeah.
She
100%,
can
100%.
see, so he's got this AI computer vision thing going, "Kyun brown kyun nahi?" And I look, yeah, sure it isn't, right? So just that, like, and mashallah, by this time she's made it, it's success and all, but she never takes it for granted, right? And that's the key thing in terms of quality and consistency. The other thing is in lifelong learning, right? So with the best entrepreneurs, I've seen that, right? And she's a great example of that. So the nihari, she was a very, very good nihari cook, right? Like, so she's been a good cook, but her nihari was legend like 20 years back, right? But it still took her 3 years to perfect the nihari recipe at the restaurant, right? Every YouTube video, every person, every uncle, auntie, cook in Pakistan, whatever, right? She could learn from, right?
Yeah, I think there was a time I remember I would change things here and then. And the cook's favorite, like the other cooks that we have, favorite word was change again, change again.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, it's the change that keeps us going.
So
Right.
I think those are just looking at that. It's great to be part of this journey. It's great to be a witness to that journey. I also think that it's great to kind of see um, everybody else now finally coming along to give just the respect that's due, right, to what Zareen has accomplished. And also just that simple symmetry where if I was doing 60, 70 hours a week, everybody like, look, what a great entrepreneur, right? But if at least initially when Zareen's doing that, right, it's like, oh, बच्चों का क्या हो रहा है, घर का क्या है, क्यों कर रही हो, क्या जरूरत है, कबाब चाहिए, वो, blah, blah, right? And I love the fact that now there is that parity and symmetry, right? She's, treated like, just another very, very good entrepreneur who, knows her craft and knows her vision.
Yeah. And I think what Zareen you said is so true that it's always, I mean, us as human beings, we're always happy when we have a purpose. That is it. Like to me, even personally, there's nothing beyond that because if you don't have purpose, and you see that a lot of times when people get retired, like after 65, they start losing interest in life if they're just sitting around doing nothing. So it's really amazing to have people and hear that nowadays more than ever before that you have to have purpose in life. Um, Umair, as you know, and Zareen, you probably know this. One of the reasons I started this podcast was based on films and movies. And now it's sort of pivoted to, talking about books and stories. And I think your story is very fascinating, especially which we never got into detail about those wonderful letters. and and obviously your restaurant, your journey. Would you like one day to have a TV series or a movie made about your journey? I know it's not, just to kind of put it out there because I think it's people are very visual in terms of, and especially with what you're doing is even more visual. Would that something that you'd be interested in if an opportunity came?
I would be thrilled, but I don't know if this would make a really good movie or not.
Yeah. Look, I think from my side, the book was such an incredible creative journey that I'm interested in lots more. So I teach at Berkeley. I was a teacher at 17 at the City School, Karachi. So I see myself as a teacher and a writer. So any and all creative projects and storytelling projects I could be part of. It's amazing. The book itself, by the way, it was about a year and a half of rejections before it came through, right? So approaching publishers, then realizing you actually need agents to approach publishers, getting rejected by publishers, getting rejected by agents, getting an agent, then getting rejected by publishers when you went with the agent, and then finally landing Sasquatch Books with this division of Penguin Random House, which is amazing folks, right? It was very humbling, right? You were almost again a 22-year-old, entrepreneur with no network and no reputation because nobody knows or cares about us in the New York publishing world, right? So it was this amazing journey, and I'll just say this: to see the reception happen for this book has been amazing. It's part of the fact that the book cover is absolutely gorgeous by
It
Iman Ban,
is.
and and the photographs inside are gorgeous, and the spotlights, the recipes, the writing, everybody loves it. But just to give you a sense, right? These people at PRH, they took a chance on us, right? This for them completely unknown couple, no writing experience, one restaurant and all, and they took a chance on this, and they are just blown away, right? So just to give you a sense, there's been 12,500 pre-orders by the booksellers, Barnes and Noble, Amazon, and so on.
Wonderful.
And the first printing was 9,000 copies. So the book went into a second printing before launch.
That's amazing.
And we are taking half of our royalties to charity. So the 6 women spotlighted picked their charities. Zareen and I picked our charity. So Behbood Pakistan, Palestinian Children's Relief Fund, Doctors Without Borders, and so on, right? So we want this to do really, really well. Like I'm an entrepreneur, she's an entrepreneur. We want this to absolutely crush it. So we're writing, big checks to charity. And the fact that this is an ode to Pakistan, right? This ode is heard, around the world for many years.
That's amazing, and I'm glad that you shared your journey about the rejections, because that is very important. And you see the end product, but you just don't know how you got to where you got to. So it's definitely great to hear all the stuff that you have shared. I think it's fabulous. I'm looking forward to reading the book. And if there's something that you guys want to add at the end, maybe a message or anything else, the floor is yours for the last few minutes.
Yeah, Zareen just gone to make sure the dog is nice and quiet. Somebody just come, but she'll
No
be
problem.
in a
We'll just
second.
wait for her. We'll wait for her.
Yeah. we'll share a final message right now. Uh, yeah. So Jawad, if you want to ask
Yeah.
that now that Zareen is here. Yeah.
I was just saying that as we wrap things up, is there some message or comment or thought that you want to share with the audience? The floor is yours, both of you guys.
For me, my message is to the women out there who are in a job that's not very satisfying or are thinking, oh, what should we do next? And I think through my example, I would like people to see that we are all skilled, like cooking is a skill, or anything that you do is skill. And don't want women to think, oh, just because they're in a house, they don't have a skill, or if just because they're caught in a unsatisfying job, there is no other way out. So it depends how you approach things, how you continue to persist and not give up, and then slowly find a change where things will go to the next level. That's how I see it. I see a lot of people with really good ideas, and they start the execution, but very soon they give up. So I think
Yeah.
it's instead of giving up, you should look at how we can change further to take it to the next direction. If I had thought about cooking classes and where it was headed nowhere, and slowly opportunities come and you change your route, is my message.
I'll
Great.
go slightly different. I'll say, yeah, I mean, the entrepreneurial stuff Zareen's completely covered. I'll talk about sort of our community, sort of Pakistani diaspora and the Muslim diaspora. I feel that it's very important for us, right, to be ambassadors of our culture and our heritage and our brand. If you look at all of us here in America, in Canada, and actually across the world, right, um, I think we've been far less sort of activist and outreaching, right? We've been far more insular. We haven't told our stories. We haven't invested in, um, professions like journalism and media, right? And so we find ourselves with reasonable amounts of affluence and success, but no influence, representation, or voice, right? And I think that's something that we have to change consciously and mindfully, right? So we need to mutually support each other, just like you're supporting us, right? And hopefully we are supporting others within the community. But that outreach part is very important. We have to lean into our identity, right? This is a big part of this is, and we love it when folks are buying this book who are not from, South Asia or from Pakistan, right? Same for folks who are eating at the restaurant who, don't know about it first, but get to know about us through our food, through our creative projects and so on. So I would urge everybody to lean into their identity and to be sort of more sort of outreaching and activist and outward looking in all of this. To give you a very small example, right? So I've been teaching for many years at Berkeley. Not once in the last 7 years did I say, Eid Mubarak to my students. The last year was the first time that I took some mithai and wrote Eid Mubarak on the board. Now imagine every professor, lecturer, high school teacher doing that for the last 25 years. Just on that simple play, we would not be the other, right? Previously, when Zareen would have somebody come and say, wow, this food is great, she'd be like, thank you so much, and let us know how we can improve it. Now she'd lean and say, oh, yeah, this Memni Samosa, this is my family's recipe. I grew up in Pakistan eating this. Or this is the food we have on Eid.
Yeah, same with like when we serve during iftar time, we serve dates to everyone. And when I take the dates, I just say, would you like to have a date? I say, would you like to break your fast with this date? Even though I know they are not fasting, but just kind of making fasting a norm, something that it's not like, oh, you're an extreme.
So I think the key thing is that I think we all need to work hard and be amazing entrepreneurs and create lots of success, but we also need to be ambassadors for ourselves and our community and our brand.
And I'm glad you said that because that's something that I have been talking about to people for almost 15 years, especially from my standpoint, that one of the things that we really lack in is storytelling. And it is so important because without that, nothing moves forward. And not because I am doing this, just because I just feel that's very, very pivotal. So I'm glad you said that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jawad. This was such a pleasure. Yeah. Thank you.